January 23rd, 1916. Verdun, France. The war is everywhere. You feel in the air, thick with smoke and gunpowder. You hear it in the relentless roar of artillery, the screams of men and horses, the sickening thud of bombs hitting the earth. Sergeant Paul Durand stands at the edge of the French trenches, the weight of his rifle a constant reminder of his duty. The mud beneath his boots is deep, the ground churned up by weeks of bloodshed. His comrades are all around him, but it feels like he's in a different world entirely. He's a soldier, yes, but one who feels strangely out of place in the midst of this madness. Durand grips his rifle, but his fingers don't feel the warmth of purpose that they should. There's no fire in his heart, only a hollow ache that grows with every passing hour. He looks over at the others, men he's known for weeks, some of whom he shared a drink with, some who have told him stories of home. They're all here, lined up along the trench, eyes wide with fear or deadened by the monotony of war. They all want one thing, to survive. But that's not enough for Durand. He can't bring himself to believe in the cause they're all fighting for. The officers call the men to attention, their voices harsh and commanding. They bark out orders like they're reading from a script. Durand listens to the words, but they don't resonate with him. The call to arms, the promise of victory, the cries of patriotism, none of it moves him. His chest tightens, and a sense of unease spreads through him. He can't explain it. There's no room for doubt in a soldier's heart, not in the chaos of war. And yet, here it is, the question that won't leave him alone. Why fight? Why kill? The others are ready to go. They're eager for action, desperate for the kind of validation that only battle can bring. For them, the line between man and machine is blurred. They fight because that's what soldiers do. But Durand can't make the leap. He can't embrace the violence, the killing, the destruction. It's not that he's afraid of dying. He knows that's inevitable. It's the killing he can't face. The thought of ending another man's life, of becoming part of the slaughter that's consuming Europe, makes him sick to his stomach. As the officers prepare the men for their next advance, Durand's mind drifts. He thinks of the life he left behind, a simple life before all of this. A life where the biggest threat was the weather or the farm work that never seemed to end. He was a farmer once, the son of a blacksmith, with a wife and a child on the way. But that life feels like a dream now, a distant memory swallowed by the war. The whistle blows. The charge begins. But Durand doesn't move. His comrades charge ahead, their faces set with grim determination, their eyes burning with the madness of battle. Durand watches them go, his heart heavy with a sense of dread. He can't bring himself to join them. The rifle in his hand feels foreign now, as though it belongs to someone else. His legs are frozen, his feet rooted to the earth, not by fear, but by something deeper, something that feels like a quiet but insistent truth. The chaos of the battlefield unfolds before him. The sound of gunfire, the explosion of shells, the flash of steel in the sunlight. He watches it all, transfixed, as his comrades rush into the fray, caught up in the frenzy of war. It's a sight that should fill him with pride, with the knowledge that they're fighting for a noble cause. But instead, all he feels is a growing sense of horror. The paradox begins to settle in his mind. How can he be part of this? How can anyone fight in a war like this? The question gnaws at him, relentless and unforgiving. The officers bark commands, urging the men forward, their voices lost in the cacophony of violence. Durand stands still, his rifle dangling at his side. The weight of it doesn't make him feel powerful. It makes him feel sick. As the battle rages on around him, Durand's internal conflict intensifies. He sees the faces of his comrades, their eyes wide with terror or determination, their faces smeared with dirt and blood. They're all caught in the same machine, all following the same orders, all driven by the same imperative to fight, to kill, to survive. But Durand can't bring himself to be a part of it. He can't embrace the insanity of it. In the distance, a wounded soldier stumbles toward the trench, his legs buckling beneath him. He's covered in blood, his uniform torn and stained. Durand sees him. and for the briefest moment, their eyes meet. The soldier's gaze is hollow, empty, the look of a man who's seen too much. Durand wants to help him, to pull him into the safety of the trench, but something holds him back. He's not even sure what it is. The other soldiers are already moving past the injured man, indifferent to his plight. The machine of war keeps turning, grinding down everything in its path. Durand watches as the soldier stumbles and falls to the ground, his life slowly slipping away. It's a moment that strikes him deep, a truth he can't ignore. Here, in the heart of this madness, the lives of the men don't matter. They're all just fodder for the war machine, expendable and forgotten. Durand stands there, his hands trembling, his heart racing. The roar of the battle continues around him, but for a moment, everything fades. He's alone with his thoughts, alone with his conviction that this war is wrong. He looks at the wounded soldier on the ground, at the faces of his comrades charging forward, and he feels a surge of helplessness. He doesn't want to be a part of this. But how can he escape it? The whistle blows again, and the command comes to advance. Durand's legs still won't move. His mind is clouded with doubt, with fear, with the knowledge that he's about to be thrust into something he can't control, something he can't accept. The battlefield before him seems like a nightmare, a place where nothing is real except for the violence, the death, and the destruction. He looks at the others, sees their grim determination, and for the first time, he feels truly alone. The chapter ends with Durand standing at the edge of the trench, his rifle heavy in his hands, the war unfolding around him. But still, he cannot bring himself to join it. The paradox deepens. The soldier who refuses to fight, but who cannot walk away. The question lingers. What will he do now, in a world where violence is the only answer? February 12, 1916. Verdun, France. The days blur together, each one marked by the same unrelenting chaos, the same explosions, the same cries of men dying in agony. Verdun has become an endless nightmare, a place where life and death are indistinguishable, where the weight of war is heavier than the mud that clings to the soles of the soldiers' boots. Sergeant Paul Durand stands in the same trench he has for weeks, a silent witness to the slaughter. But now, something has changed within him. He can no longer stand idly by, cannot ignore the suffering around him. He is no longer the reluctant soldier who refused to fight. Now he is something else, a man who has discovered that there is still something worth saving in this hell. The call to advance comes again. The officers bark orders like they've done countless times before. The soldiers around him stir, ready to charge, to plunge into the chaos with the blind obedience that has kept them alive until now. Durand watches them, but his eyes are not on the weapons they carry or the orders they follow. His gaze falls on the wounded, the men who are left behind, the ones who can't keep up, the ones who won't make it through the day. He can no longer ignore their cries, no longer turn away from the suffering. A young soldier, barely more than a boy, is lying in the mud, his legs shattered by shrapnel. His face is contorted in pain, his mouth open in a silent scream. The others pass him by without a second glance, moving forward to the front lines, their focus solely on the fight ahead. Durand's heart twists. The boy is just one of many, but his pain is unbearable to witness. Something inside him shifts, a decision made not in the heat of battle, but in the quiet of his own conscience. He will not leave this boy to die alone, not while he still has the strength to do something about it. Without thinking, Durand moves. He steps forward, his boots slipping in the wet, heavy earth, his mind focused only on the boy. His rifle hangs loosely at his side, ignored, as he rushes toward the fallen soldier. The noise of battle continues around him, but it feels distant now, muffled by the pounding of his own heartbeat. His hands shake as he reaches the boy, but he forces himself to steady them, to lift the soldier's body with as much care as he can manage. The boy's eyes flicker open, confusion clouding his gaze as Durand pulls him into his arms. The boy's name is Jean, Durand learns as he presses him close, trying to shield him from the shrapnel and gunfire that whizzes by. He's only 18, just a child in the eyes of the war, but here he is, a casualty of something much larger than he ever understood. Durand feels the weight of the responsibility settle on him like a mantle. He doesn't know what compelled him to act. Perhaps it's the years of conditioning, the instinct to save a life that has been beaten into every soldier. But whatever it is, it's no longer just about survival. It's about something else, something more human. He begins to move, dragging Jean through the mud, each step a battle against the weight of the war that threatens to swallow them both. The trench is a maze of bodies, of soldiers who are too focused on their own survival to notice the man who is trying to rescue one of their own. Durand feels the sting of isolation, of being outside the system, but he pushes forward. The boy's blood is warm against his hands, his breathing shallow, but he's still alive. And for that, Durand is willing to risk everything. Every inch of ground is contested. He pulls Jean into the relative safety of a small ditch, trying to shield him from the flying debris and gunfire. He can hear the officers yelling, the commands cutting through the air, but they're distant to him now. He's no longer a part of their war. He's a man trying to save a life, and that is all that matters. But even as he tries to make the boy comfortable, a gnawing fear creeps into his chest. What if he can't get Jean back to the safety of the medical tent? What if he is just another casualty of war, another face in the crowd of forgotten soldiers? He looks around, the battlefield stretching out before him like a hellscape. It's a place where time stands still, where men are born and die in the same breath. But there's still something in Durand, something deep inside him, that refuses to accept this fate. He cannot let the boy die here. Not like this, not with the war moving on without a care. It's not just about the boy anymore. It's about the idea that something, anything, can still be saved in this madness. He begins moving again, his steps slower now, the weight of Jean's body growing heavier with each passing moment. The sound of artillery grows louder, the earth shaking beneath his feet as another shell explodes nearby. But Durand presses on. He can't stop now. Now the boy's life hangs by a thread. The trench opens up into a small clearing, a rare pocket of relative safety amidst the violence. Durand looks around, desperate for help, but there is no one. The other soldiers are too caught up in their own battles to notice him. There's no officer to issue orders, no medic to take charge. It's just him and Jean, alone in this hell. Durand's heart races, his mind spinning with the weight of the situation. He knows that the longer he stays out in the open, the more likely they are to be caught in the crossfire. But he can't abandon the boy now, not after everything they've been through. He crouches low, his back pressed against the muddy earth, and tries to keep Jean as still as possible. He knows that the chances of survival are slim, that the battlefield is no place for compassion. But in this moment, as the boy's breath comes in shallow gasps, Durand realizes something. In a war that has stripped away the humanity of so many men, he has managed to hold on to something. Something that makes him different. Something that reminds him that even in the darkest of places, there is still light to be found. For a moment, the world goes quiet. The sounds of battle fade into the background, the constant din of war becoming a distant hum. All Durand can hear is the ragged breath of the boy in his arms, the pulse of his own heart, and the promise he has made to keep Jean alive. He will not be just another casualty of this war. He will survive. They will survive. But the battle isn't over. The war rages on, indifferent to the individual lives it consumes. And Durand knows, deep down, that his actions won't be enough to change the tide. But for now, he holds on to the belief that saving one life is worth everything. And in that belief, he finds the strength to push forward, even when it feels like the world itself is crumbling around him. The chapter ends with Durand and Jean, locked in a fragile moment of survival, the promise of hope hanging in the balance. In the madness of war, in the heart of this brutal conflict, they are still fighting for something more than survival, something that has the power to make even the darkest of days seem just a little bit brighter. March 28, 1916. Verdun, France. The war has not stopped. The endless thundering of artillery never ceases, The trenches are still filled with mud, the air thick with the stench of death. But for Sergeant Paul Durand, the world has shifted. The line between soldier and savior, between warrior and man, has blurred in ways he never expected. The boy, Gene, survived. He's recovering, though not without a lingering bitterness in his eyes, a look that says more than any words ever could. But Durand doesn't have time for that. He's no longer the soldier who refused to fight. He's something different now, a man who has found purpose in saving others. Yet, in the shadow of the battlefront, in the trenches that seem to stretch into eternity, there is no room for men like him. Durand is standing by the edge of the trench again, rifle in hand, but his heart is elsewhere. The trench, with its endless rows of soldiers and officers shouting orders, feels more like a prison every day. He's not a prisoner of war, no. He's a prisoner of his own conscience. The decisions he made, the lives he saved, those decisions have carved something inside him. He's not the same person who once hesitated to fire a single shot. But in this place where lives are spent as easily as bullets, there is no reward for doing what's right. There is only the cold, mechanical grind of the war machine. The French High Command still has no use for him. The medals and recognition that others receive seem so distant, so foreign to him now. It's as if the things he's done have never happened, as if the lives he's saved mean nothing in the face of the war's endless march. His comrades, the ones who fought alongside him, continue to hold on to their blind obedience to orders, their devotion to the cause, their faith in the system. They don't understand him, and maybe they never will. There are moments when Durand wonders if he's become a ghost in his own life, invisible and forgotten. The war continues to rage. It consumes everything it touches, leaving nothing behind but broken men and ruined landscapes. Verdun is no longer just a battlefield. It's a scar on the earth, a wound that will never heal. The landscape, once lush and full of life, is now a barren expanse of trenches, barbed wire, and craters. But the soldiers march on. They fight on. They follow orders, no matter the cost. And Durand watches them, disconnected, as though he's no longer a part of their world. Gene's wounds have healed, but his spirit is another matter. He's not the same boy who Durand carried off the battlefield. The war has taken something from him, something that can never be replaced. His eyes are hollow, empty, haunted by what he's seen and experienced. Durand tries to talk to him, to offer words of comfort, but Gene just nods, his face blank. There's a bitterness in his eyes that Durand can't seem to shake. The boy wants to fight again. He wants to pick up a rifle and return to the front lines, to find some meaning in the madness. But Durand knows the truth. Gene has already given too much, and there's nothing left for him to prove. But the war doesn't care. The officers don't care. Gene's return to the front is inevitable, just as it is for every other soldier. The brass at the top don't care about the lives they've broken. They only care about the battles they've won and lost. To them, men like Durand and Gene are just numbers in a ledger, casualties to be forgotten once they've served their purpose. The brutality of war has erased any notion of humanity, replaced it with a machine-like determination to win at any cost. Durand's thoughts are interrupted by the sound of shouting from the trench. A new order has come down from command. They're to make a push forward to take a position held by the enemy. Another offensive, another chance to die. The men around him begin to stir, their faces hardening as they prepare for another wave of violence. They know the risks. They know the cost. But for them, it's all just part of the job. For Durand, it's a moment of stark clarity. He's not like them anymore. He doesn't share the same faith in the system.